Hello, everyone. My name is Bryn Obermiller, and I am the Senior Director of ESEA Oversight here at the department, and I'm very excited to be here with you today to discuss the FY25 Stronger Connections Grant. As you probably know, we here at the department always ground our work in the state's Best for All strategic plan, which names three priorities: academics, student readiness, and educators. So today we are going to go over a few things that are important for you all to remember as you complete your applications for FY25. We'll do a quick overview of the program, go over some reminders, discuss the steps that you will need to take for FY25, go over the requirements for equitable services, cover program reporting and monitoring, and then we'll close our time together going over some resources. As a reminder, all of the resources that we cover today can be accessed in ePlan, and you can see the breadcrumbs as well as a screenshot of where those resources are located in TDOE resources, again in ePlan. And so with that, we will go ahead and get started with our content. As you all already know, the Stronger Connections Grant is part of the bipartisan Safer Communities Act of 2022. The purpose of the SCG is to establish safer and healthier learning environments and to prevent and respond to acts of bullying, violence, and hate that impact school communities at individual and systemic levels, among other programs and activities. And then there at the bottom of the slide, I do have a link to Ed's Stronger Connection Frequently Asked Questions document, which always comes in handy. And just to remind you who your fellow grantees are, you can see from the map and the list that we are a very diverse group with both rural, urban, suburban LEAs spread out across the state. So welcome back. Next, we will shift to some reminders. So up first, we have a reminder about our timeline. We are in year 2 of the grant, and so you will have until September 30 of 2026 to obligate all of your funds. Just as you did in the initial application, you will be able to submit a multi-year budget for your FY25 application. So a budget that will cover FY25 and FY26. And we'll talk more about how that should look in the next section of the presentation. As a quick reminder, all Stronger Connection purchases must meet the intent of at least one of our Stronger Connection focus areas, which you can see up on the screen. These should look very familiar to you all, as these are the focus areas that you built your application on. If you do need a refresher, or if you would like to read more about these 4 focus areas, you can find that information in our technical application guide. Another reminder is around stakeholder involvement. You all already did a lot of work on the front end to engage teachers, school leaders, students, and families. And it is very important that you keep that engagement up. So know now that you have your funds and are getting ready to implement your programs, it is essential that you are consistently engaging your stakeholders, paying close attention to their needs and how they are experiencing the implementation of your program. So as you continue this work this year and next year, it is going to be crucial that you continue that engagement and maintain documentation of that engagement. So make sure that throughout the life of the grant, you are maintaining your meeting invitations, your agendas, your sign-in sheets. If you are using a survey, make sure you are documenting that survey and the results, or any other communication that you share with stakeholders about this grant. We will be asking for documentation of continued engagement in the application, as well as through grant monitoring, which we will discuss in further detail in just a bit. Okay, so now we'll go over the steps that you will need to complete for FY25. This is our timeline. We are asking for your FY24 FIR to be submitted by August 15th, and I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. Next, for FY25, that application will be due in e-plan no later than September 15th. That is going to include all of your equitable services documentation as well. And again, we'll go into more detail about that in just a minute. And then once you get your FY25 budget submitted and approved, you will be able to submit revisions, in e-plan as needed throughout the 24-25 school year. So as I just mentioned, your first step will be to complete the FY24 Final Expenditure Report, or FIR, in e-plan. Again, we are asking for that to be completed no later than August 15th. If you are able to do it earlier, please do. The department's regional finance consultants are the ones who review and approve those FIRs. You can see links up on the screen for instructions on how to complete the FIR, and all of that is in TDOE resources in ePlan. I also have a link to a map that shows you who your regional finance consultant is. So if you have questions, are not quite sure what to do, you can always reach out to them for assistance. Once your FY24 FIR has been submitted and approved, all of your remaining carryover funds will move into your FY25 application in ePlan. So that application is currently available in ePlan as we speak. So again, the earlier you all are able to get your FIR submitted and approved, the earlier those funds will move over to your FY25 application, and you can begin working on your budget. And a big thank you to those of you who have already gotten this step done. We have a couple people who have already submitted their applications for FY25, and even more folks who have gotten their FIRs done and are getting ready to start those applications. So thank you. To locate the application in ePlan, you will navigate from the home page by hovering your mouse over the funding tab on the left menu bar, and then select Funding Applications. You will select the desired fiscal year, which is 2025, in the upper left corner of the screen, and then select Stronger Connections. For FY25, there are several pages that will need to be completed in the application, including the cover page, a very abbreviated needs assessment, a spending plan page, the personnel pages, and then the LEA program administration pages. You will also complete a budget and complete the equitable services pages as applicable, and resources for all of the sections can be found in the technical application guide, which we have linked on the slide. As I just mentioned, you will complete a very abbreviated needs assessment page in comparison to what you did for your initial grant application. You will want to refer back to your FY24 application as you complete this page. To make that extra simple for you, I have created a PDF of each district's FY24 application. Once you have completed your FIR and your funds move over into your FY25 application, I will be able to go into your application and upload that PDF copy. So if you are in your application and you have not seen that yet, you can shoot me an email and I'll make sure I get it in there. But I am trying to check every day to see which applications are open for me to upload that document. So that will hopefully make this process a little bit easier for you, to where you can just open that PDF and you don't have to go back and forth between your FY24 and FY25 applications. Once I have uploaded that PDF, you will also be able to find it in the related documents section of the application, as well as on the program page. So here on the needs assessment for FY25, we only have 2 questions. We are asking for a year 1 evaluation. So please reflect upon and evaluate the first year of grant implementation. In that response, please provide relevant data. Please describe the successes and challenges of your first year, and then describe any changes that will need to be made in year 2. Please be very specific in your response and clearly describe what is asked in the prompt. Next on this page, you will discuss stakeholder engagement. So you will describe how the district will continue to provide ongoing and meaningful opportunities for students, families, community partners, educators, and staff to be involved in the selection of evidence-based strategies and activities implemented to be funded through the grant program. So again, we are asking for evidence of that ongoing stakeholder engagement that is required of the grant. Next, you would complete the LEA program administration page. There have been no changes on this page from last year, so it should look pretty familiar. As a reminder, districts can charge up to 2% of the total allocation as administrative cost. Remember that it is 2% of your total allocation, so that is the total amount that you were awarded in FY24. So any administration that you set aside last year, if you took the full 2%, whatever is left over and was not spent from that amount, then that will be available for you to spend in FY25 and or FY26. And so when you get to this page, there are a couple of prompts there to address. Again, I want to remind everyone that the Stronger Connections Grant Technical Application Guide has detailed instructions for all of these pages. So definitely take advantage of that and use it if you get stuck somewhere. Next, we have our personnel detail pages. Again, these are exactly the same as last year. You will complete the pages that are applicable to your budget. If one of the pages is not applicable to you, please click Not Applicable at the top of that page. So there are 3 different personnel detail pages, and you can see the definitions for those up on the screen. We have system-wide, regular school year, K through 12 school level, and then summer school, K through 12 school level. You do have an option to copy the previous fiscal year details to these pages. That would allow you to simply move what was included in your FY24 application over to your FY25 application. And to do so, you would utilize the link at the top of the personnel pages to copy that information over. If you do copy any of the previous year's information over to any part of the application, please just be sure that you review what you've copied over, make sure that everything is accurate, and make any edits that might be needed. The spending plan page looks basically just the same as it did last year. And just like last year, the amounts listed for each focus area will auto-populate on this page based on the budget tags that you will enter on the budget page. And I'll remind you in just a few minutes what that looks like. You may consider manually copying and pasting your narrative information from your FY24 application to this page. If that would make it more simple for you, you will just want to make sure that you are aligned with your FY25 budget, and again, make any updates that might be needed based on any proposed changes to your programming. Each narrative on the spending plan page must be complete and include all of the requested information. Again, if you copy and paste that information from last year to save yourself some time, you just want to make sure it's all updated and accurate. And then finally, just like last year, if your project will span multiple years, then you will want to make that clear in your narratives on the spending plan page as well as in the budget. Okay, so next we'll shift to the budget page. Here as well, you are able to copy your FY24 budget line items and narrative descriptions into your FY25 application. If this is something you will want to do, it is very important to note that the decision to copy a previous year's budget must be made before entering the current year's budget information. So if you make a single budget entry in the FY25 application, then the link to copy your budget will become unavailable. So unlike our last page, the spending plan page, when we talk about copying and pasting, that would be you like literally going into your old application and copying and pasting manually the information from one page to the next. When we're talking about copying our budget page, there's actually an option for ePlan to do that for you, just like it was on the LEA administration page. So to copy last year's budget, you're going to click Copy 2024 Budget Detail, and then you will click the verification link that pops up to actually copy your budget. If you do decide to copy your budget over, you will please, again, want to make changes where are needed. You may need to change the dollar amounts, and then you may need to change a couple of the narratives. So again, you just want to make sure that all of your information is current and up to date. Just like last year, as we mentioned, budget tags are required in the application, and they will help populate the amounts to be spent in each focus area on that spending plan page. The budget tags are based on the 4 subgrant focus areas, and then we also have a tag for administration costs. So as you are entering your budget items where you see use of funds, you will click and on that little drop-down menu. It will pop up with our focus areas and our admin tags. You will select the tag that applies to that purchase, and then that will populate the amounts listed on your spending plan page. As a reminder, in addition to being allowable under ESSA and meeting the intent of one or more of our grant focus areas, all of your purchases must meet the following fiscal requirements. 1, be reasonable and necessary for the performance of the grant. 2, be applicable to the grant. 3, supplement and not supplant other non-federal funds. 4, not be one of the prohibited activities in ESEA Section 4001 or 8526, and be consistent with any other applicable uniform guidance provisions. Please be sure that the narrative descriptions within your application and your budget pages contain enough detail that it is evident that all of your purchases and programs meet these requirements. Next, we will move on to some reminders about equitable services. As you all know, these are ESSA dollars through Title IV Part A. Therefore, grantees are expected to implement equitable services with stronger connection grant funds. Just like Title IV Part A, expenditures for equitable services for eligible non-public school students and educators are equal on a per-pupil basis to the expenditures for participating public school students and teachers. You all already did a lot of work with your eligible non-public schools last year to determine who would participate and what those allocations would be. Any unspent funds from FY24 will move over to your FY25 application, and those will need to be budgeted for your non-public schools. So for FY25, you will need to meet the following consultation requirements if you do have any non-public schools that still have grant funding remaining. You will continue to engage your participating non-public schools with ongoing, timely, and meaningful consultation. And we do have a Stronger Connections Grant affirmation and agreement form that can be used to document the consultation process. You will continue to provide equitable services to eligible non-public school students and educators, ensuring that those expenditures are equal on a per-pupil basis. And then at the bottom of this table, you will also see a bulleted list of everything that needs to be completed within that FY25 application. I'm not going to cover this information on this slide as I have it broken down further on the next couple of slides, but definitely go back to this slide if you need a quick list of what needs to be included in your application. So if you do have participating non-public schools for FY25, there are really 2 pages that will need to be addressed. The first is going to be the equitable services page, and then the next one will be in the related document section. So up at the top of the equitable services page, you will see a NA or not applicable box. If there are no participating non-public schools, then you will check the box that page is not applicable. If you check the box, you can then move on and no more information will be needed from you on this page. However, if you do have participating non-public schools, Again, only your unspent funds from FY24 will move over to your FY25 application. They will move over at the same time as all of your funds once you have completed that FIR. So right below the NA box, at the top of the Equitable Services page, you will enter the amount of carryover funds for your participating non-public schools. Next on this page, you will describe the consultation process between the district and eligible non-public schools. In your response, please include important dates, modes of communication, and the information provided to the non-public school representatives. You will also upload an affirmation and final agreement form to the related documents page, and you will describe the process used to evaluate the non-public school activities or services. Next, just like in FY24, you will list the non-public schools that are participating in the program, and you will provide each school's allocation amount for FY25, a description of the activities and services that will be provided to each non-public school, and the applicable Stronger Connection Grant focus area for the activities. Any information provided on this page should align with the information that is provided in the budget. One note that I'll make here is for that allocation amount, you're just going to want to list the amount of money that they have left, right? So you'll take their total allocation, subtract what they spent in FY24, and in that box, you will enter what is left of that allocation that they were awarded in FY24. Then, as I just mentioned, you will need to upload a signed copy of your affirmation and agreement form to the related document section of the application for each participating non-public school. And we are asking for this to be uploaded by September 15th, which is also the due date of the overall application. A copy of this form can be found in the related document section of the application and can also be accessed in TDOE resources and in ePlan. So on this page, you will click on Upload New to upload your signed consultation forms. And then down at the bottom there, you will see there will be another copy of your approved application from FY24. There is nothing that you need to do to upload. You don't need to upload anything there. That is just a copy of your old application for your convenience. Okay, so next we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about program reporting and monitoring for FY25. As you all know, these funds are provided to the state by the U.S. Department of Education. Each year, as a recipient of these funds, the state must submit an annual performance report to ED. The annual performance report for the Stronger Connections Grant requires grantees to report on the amount of funds budgeted and expended under 9 reporting categories and on the FTEs funded under 7 personnel categories. Please note that you will include any purchases for non-public schools in this information when it is collected. Reporting will be required for each year that funds are expended, and so that would include FY24, FY25, and FY26. This is a list of the reporting categories established for the APR. These are categories that you will be using to report out on your Stronger Connection Grant purchases. So we have mentoring or other relationship building activities, school-based mental health services, providers and programs or activities that help prevent bullying and harassment, implementation of school-wide multi-tiered systems of support, positive behavioral interventions, and other efforts to improve positive school climates and reduce exclusionary discipline, programs or activities that address community violence, intervention, and prevention, after-school programs for students, school dropout prevention, school reentry programs, and other efforts to keep students on track for academic outcomes, professional development for educators and school staff aligned with the purposes of the Stronger Connections Grant. And then we have a category for other for any activities that don't fall into one of the other categories. Next, we have the established personnel categories that will be used to report on all personnel items. We have credentialed school-based mental health service providers, staff administering school attendance, dropout prevention, or reentry programs, staff implementing after-school programs, staff who implement and enhance school-wide prevention activities, school safety resource officers or law enforcement, community school coordinators or other personnel coordinating wraparound or community services and supports, and then other personnel related to the purposes of the grant. We will begin the reporting process for funds spent in FY24 sometime this fall. We are currently working on how this reporting is going to take place. And so I will have more information to share with you in the coming weeks. It is unfortunate that we did not receive these reporting categories until after our grant was already launched, or we may have decided to set up our application a little bit differently. But nonetheless, we know the information that Ed is requiring, and we're working on a simple and efficient way for you all to submit that information. Once we have that system built out, I will be sharing various guidance documents. We will have an activities crosswalk. We will do a webinar, and then we will also hold office hours during the reporting window. So more information about Stronger Connections Grant annual reporting will be on its way very soon. Next, we will quickly shift to monitoring. All Stronger Connection Grant funds will be monitored in FY25 via the ESSA discretionary grant monitoring instrument in ePlan. This is a 100% desktop monitoring that will consist of agree-disagree prompts, open response prompts, and document uploads. The monitoring tool is currently being built out, but I can tell you a list of topics that will be covered, including fiscal oversight of the grant, stakeholder involvement, including evidence of ongoing involvement, information about program evaluation, the priority use of funds, program goals, how the district tracks and monitors the grant, the grant spending timeline, and equitable services as applicable. Monitoring is tentatively scheduled to begin in January. Again, it will be desktop monitoring. There will be a webinar explaining the process sometime in January. There will also be office hours that are held throughout the months of February and March. The instrument is tentatively scheduled to open in early February of 2025 and will be due in March. Once that instrument has been submitted, the department will review and then follow up and provide technical assistance as needed in early April. And then there at the bottom of the slide, I have a link to where resources and instructions for this monitoring will be posted once they become available. So again, we'll be sharing a lot more information about this process in the coming weeks. As we wrap up our time together, let's go over a few quick resources. Again, in TDOE resources and ePlan, we have multiple resources, including our technical application guide, all of the equitable services forms that you need, as well as some resources from Ed, including the Dear Colleague letter and FAQ document. We have developed a new resource this year. There is an optional Stronger Connections Grant activity evaluation template. This is an optional tool that you can use as you work to evaluate your programming, and can also be used as documentation of the evaluation process for monitoring. It is a very simple form, again, completely optional, but just something that we thought would be helpful as you move into year 2 of your programming. If you have questions, I am happy to assist. My email is bryn.obermiller@tn.gov. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to schedule a call to go over any of this that you're not sure about. And I do appreciate your time today. If If you could please take just a moment to scan the QR code with your phone and share your feedback on this session. We do appreciate your feedback and we really try to use it to improve our programming here in FPO. I thank you very much for your time. Have a great day. And again, please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.